Hello listeners and welcome back. If you're a big reader like I am, you tend to follow a lot of reading channels or social medias. Now with this new month rolling out, you'll notice that all of those channels are starting to release their monthly reading wrap-ups. And as much as I read a lot myself and want to make my own reading wrap-up videos, I don't read as quickly as most of these other YouTubers, so I don't have as many books to present at the end of each month, making it a little difficult for me to do a reading wrap-up each month. However, upon thinking about it, I realized that even though I may not read too much in a month, I do watch a fair few movies each month. And this is where I got the idea to do a monthly movie wrap-up instead. And that's what today's video is going to be about. I'll take you through all of the movies I watched this month. Fair warning, there may be spoilers as I will be talking about key moments that stood out for me on each movie. But without further ado, let's begin. Here's every movie and TV series I watched in the month of January. First up, I ended up rewatching The Watch, starring Ben Stiller, Jonah Hill, and Vince Vaughn. It is outrageously funny, and if you have not seen it, I highly recommend. Next up, I also ended up rewatching Date Night, starring Steve Carell and Tina Fey. This is another good movie that takes you on a wild adventure with many fun cameos. Next, I ended up rewatching The Other Woman. It is a really good movie and is perfect in every way. If you haven't seen this movie, talk about missing out because it is just absolutely incredible. I ended up rewatching Pretty Woman as I was with my mum for the holidays, and it's one of her favorite movies, so I watched it with her and of course not complaining as it is a total classic. Coming in as the first new movie this year, we have Reunion. It originally came out in 2024, but it has just dropped on Netflix, so I ended up checking it out. It is about a bunch of classmates back for their school reunion that get snowed in for the night and the next morning wake up to find one of their classmates murdered. They must find out who among them did it. I won't give away any spoilers, but I will say that the twist was interesting and perhaps someone you wouldn't expect. Next up, I ended up rewatching The Big Short. This is a highly underrated movie in my opinion, which is quite surprising considering its cast. It's got so many well-known names in it, such as Christian Bale, Steve Carell, Brad Pitt, Ryan Gosling. But ultimately, what makes this movie so interesting is that it is about the housing market crash of 2008. It ends up going through and detailing about the ins and outs of the event and particularly what was happening on the banking side of it. You follow the movie through the eyes of the people that ended up predicting the crash before it actually happened. It is quite informative and interesting and would highly recommend. Next, I ended up watching Rough Night, starring Scarlett Johansson, as it is just outrageously fun and funny and perfect for a fun, relaxing night in. Next, I watched Me on Vacation, as it had just dropped on Netflix, and I of course had heard of the book. I unfortunately haven't quite gotten around to reading the book yet, but I still wanted to check out the movie as I know I'd eventually get around to reading the book, so I can't testify about how good of an adaptation it was. But as a movie as itself, it ended up being really, really good. It was a really sweet and wholesome friends to lovers, and was all around just really quirky and fun. I would recommend watching it even if you hadn't read the books yet, and if you were someone that has seen it and has read the book, did they do a good job at adapting it to film? Next, we have the film Every Day. Now, I do remember reading the book years ago, and then I think I watched the film not long after. I ended up stumbling upon it again and decided to check it out as I vaguely remember it, but not in detail. So I ended up rewatching it, and it is actually quite a good film with a very interesting and unique concept. If you haven't heard of this film, we follow a teenage girl who falls in love with a spirit that possesses a different body every day. So if that sounds interesting to you, I recommend checking it out.
I'm in love with someone who wakes up in a different body every day. Always the same age, never the same person twice.
Next up, I ended up watching Seth Rogen's Paul. Just watched this for a good, fun, relaxing time. I've seen this film many, many times, and I'm honestly quite familiar with it. And I mean, can you blame me? It is really good. If you like long road trip adventures, aliens, and rude jokes, then I would say you would probably enjoy this movie. Next, I ended up watching Wedding Days with Jason Biggs and Elisa Fisher. This movie is quite a wild but fun time. I'm actually surprised that I hadn't come across it sooner, considering I'm quite familiar with the two leads. We follow Anderson, who has just lost the love of his life and has no motivation or hope when it comes to finding love. His friends try and convince him otherwise, and on an impulse, he asks a stranger, a waitress named Katie, to marry him. Things take a wild turn when she actually agrees. Next, we have Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates. This movie is outrageous, crazy, wild, and fun. It takes you on a roller coaster of adventures. I can guarantee you'll be gasping and laughing your way through this movie. I've seen this movie multiple times by now, and it never ceases to amaze me when it comes to its shock factor and comedy. Plus, on top of that, it has an amazing cast with stars such as Adam Devine, Zac Efron, Aubrey Plaza, and Anna Kendrick. Now, in preparation for Liam Neeson's new Naked Gun, I ended up going back and watching all of the original 3 of Leslie Nielsen's Naked Guns. And now, even to this day, they still hold up. They are fun, clever, and the comedy in them is unmatched. It is unique, clever, and has never been done before, and I can guarantee will never be done again. Now, of course, after watching the original 3, I then therefore went on to watch the new Naked Gun starring Liam Neeson. This new Naked Gun was very well done and was still quite unique and funny with its comedic elements. However, as well as it was done, and I would still highly recommend, after watching the original 3 and being a fan of them, I will say that there was a lot more that they could have added to this new installment. It was still extremely funny, but still feel like they could have done a lot more. I will say that nothing will ever stand up to the original 3, but they could have tried studying the original 3 and using a lot of its comedic elements to not only make it more funny, but keep it in the realms of the originals. So overall, I still highly enjoy it and would highly recommend. It wasn't bad in any way, I just believe that there was so much more they could have done, particularly when honouring one of the greats such as Leslie Nielsen. Next, I watched How to Lose a Popularity Contest starring Sarah Weiss-Glass, who also plays Max in Ginny and George. Ellie tries to prove that the popular kids always win. She does this by running a campaign for Nate, the most popular bad boy in school, just so she can sabotage it. However, the plan backfires when feelings start to develop and they actually run a successful campaign. This movie actually wasn't too bad and would flow just how you expect it would. Another interesting thing about this film is I remember seeing Sarah talking about her development of this character, and she was worried about being typecasted as the character was extreme, bubbly and demanding, very similar to Max from Ginny and George. So upon watching the film, it was interesting how she was able to create a very similar yet entirely unique dynamic when it came to embodying this character. It was very clever and interesting to see how she embodied such a similar character rather than completely embodying Max into this new character. Next, we have The Gorge. I actually really enjoyed this film and thought it was pretty cool. The thing that surprised me about this film was how it played out, as I think I was just expecting something entirely different. I thought it was going to be about these two characters on either side of the gorge, not communicating with one another until what was in the gorge ended up coming up at such an extreme rate and forcing them to work together. And that's how they started their bond. But that's not how the movie took place at all. It surprised me as it turns out that it was her that started communicating first. They end up forming a slight bond before we ever see anything come out of the gorge. It was surprisingly slow paced, but still had a way to keep you very much entertained and wondering where it all going to go next. Next, I ended up watching Wolves. This is another pretty good action thriller. We also get a fun Ocean's reunion with George Clooney and Brad Pitt. It was fun seeing their witty comedic duo in this mysteriously fun action thriller. Next, I ended up watching Civil War. This was the second time that I ended up watching it. It was still just as thrilling as the first. This film was quite interesting due to the perspective that it was told from, as we are actually following war photographers. They captured some absolutely incredible photos throughout the film. My favorite part of the film, of course, would have had to have been the White House scene. It was entirely thrilling and absolutely captivating. I was so captivated that I kept on trying to look around the corners as if I was actually there with the characters. I was just completely transported. Next, I watched The Fountain of Youth. This was not a bad action adventure, and definitely something for the whole family, as we watched two siblings use their knowledge of history and clues to find the Fountain of Youth. It's got plenty of action, adventure, and even a few surprising twists. Next up, I ended up watching The Arc of Truth and Continuum. These are the two final films of the Stargate series. And I'm actually quite excited to talk about this, as not many people know of it. So whilst all of you were out there watching things such as Star Wars and Star Trek, I was out here watching Stargate. For those of you who have never heard of Stargate, it is an action sci-fi series that ran for 10 years. In the series, you follow a government program. It houses a handful of teens made up of military soldiers and scientists. They discover a ringed-shaped device built by a race they call the Ancients. This device, they name the Stargate, creates a portal-like wormhole that allows you to travel to planets throughout the galaxy in almost an instant. I did not end up watching the entirety of the series again. My family did. However, I ended up coming in at the very end of their watch, and that's how I ended up watching the last two movies. First being The Arc of Truth. They finally find the ultimate weapon to destroy the aura, and then lastly Continuum, where we watch them finally defeat the last of the System Lords, Ball. If you are someone that knows of or has watched the Stargate series like I have, comment below, as I have not found another person that has seen it outside of my immediate family. And with it being such a huge series, I just know there has got to be a fan base out there somewhere. Next, I ended up watching Waterworld, starring Kevin Costner. This movie is basically Mad Max, but instead of endless deserts, you have endless water. This movie is a depiction of what we have to look forward to in the future. This movie takes place in a world where there is only water. The polar ice caps have melted and therefore have flooded all of the lands, only leaving an endless sea of ocean. We follow a wanderer who comes across a mother and daughter. The young girl has a tattoo on her that is supposed to be a map leading you to dry land. So the three set out on a journey to find dry land. But things only get more complicated when savages find out about the little girl's tattoo and try and kidnap her to find the location of dry land. It is quite a good movie and overall interesting concept to explore. Next up, we have War Games: The Death Code. We follow Will, a hacker who violates the security of a restricted online gaming network, not knowing that it is actually a government defense system. Overall, this movie was alright. It just reminded me as more of like a young teen version of Shia LaBeouf's Eagle Eye. Next, I ended up rewatching all 5 installments of Pirates of the Caribbean. They all held up and were incredibly perfect, but I feel like that goes without saying. I do have one question about the franchise, however, specifically relating to movie 4. Do we think Sam Clifford's character at the end of the film, when he gets taken down to the depths by the mermaid, do we think that she saves him or kills him? I would like to think that she saves him, as it makes for a better story, and I feel like that's the way that they were implying it was going to go. But I'm interested to know what you guys might think. Do you think he was saved, or do you think he was killed? Next up, we have The Magnificent Seven. This was also not a bad action western film. It showcased a lot of high-class names such as Denzel Washington, Ethan Hawke, Chris Pratt, and many more. Watch them be courageous, fight, and even die for what they believed in. Next up, we have Alita, the Battle Angel. This is a really good and extremely underrated action sci-fi. Alita is a battle cyborg who was found and reassembled by the local doctor. When she wakes up, she has no memory of who she was or where she came from. Alita then sets out to learn about her past and find her true identity. This is actually quite an incredibly cool, fun, adventurous action film, which you expect no less when you hear it's produced by James Cameron. It is certainly unique and keeps you on the edge of the seat with its non-stop action and open ending. You know there is just plenty more to come. Next up, I watched this film called Get Shorty, starring John Travolta. We follow a mob star who visits LA to collect a debt, where he realizes that the movie business and his business are one and the same, to where he sets out to slowly but surely work his way into the movie business. This movie was pretty cool and interesting. It had a lot going on with a lot of different stories and characters intertwining. It was engaging and kept you on your toes, but did get a little bit confusing at times. Next up, we watched the live-action Peter Pan. Overall, it wasn't so bad and actually quite enjoyed it. It definitely had some strange and weird, questionable moments in it, but overall, as a live adaptation, it was done really well. Next up, I ended up watching Edward Scissorhands. I ended up rewatching Edward Scissorhands, as I had not seen it since I was very young, and was interested to revisit it with a new fresh pair of eyes and perspective. Overall, as a film, it is not too bad. It is definitely a little weird and strange, or rather, it's very strange, but there were still some good aspects about it that still allow you to enjoy it overall. Particularly, I was impressed with Johnny Depp's adaptation to the character. Whether or not you love the film or hate the film, Johnny Depp was able to embody and portray the character in such a way you still found yourself caring for and sympathizing with Edward's character, whether from him being entirely alone most of his life, or for being punished as people simply do not understand his communication. I found it very clever, as despite how strange the movie is as a whole, you still found yourself rooting and sympathizing for the main character. Next up, I watched Epic Movie. This movie basically follows 4 characters reunited as orphan siblings. As they set out on their adventure, they end up running into many obstacles. These obstacles usually take place in the form of a beloved classic movie character. This movie has tons of parodied references to favorite classics such as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Pirates of the Caribbean, Narnia, and many more. Overall, it was okay, but it was just really weird and strange. There were some funny parts, but it was mostly just strange. I wouldn't recommend not watching it, but if you're looking for a parody recommendation, I would definitely recommend something like Not Another Teen or Scary Movie before I recommend this film. I ended up rewatching Ella Enchanted. The reason I watched Ella Enchanted is my brother stumbled upon this clip.
Look, I think it's only fair to warn you that I'm practiced in the ancient art of origami.
Paper folding?
Oh, I was hoping you wouldn't know what that was.
He showed it to me, and that's when I told him that it is actually from a film. He had never seen it before, so I made him watch it, hence why it's on the list for this month's wrap-up. Next, I ended up watching The Box, starring Cameron Diaz and James Marsden. We follow a couple who receives a mysterious box. They are then told that if they press the button on the box, they will receive $1 million. However, someone that they don't know somewhere will be killed. Overall, I guess morally, the movie was interesting as it was trying a bigger and overall message. However, in my opinion, it was just slow, boring, long, drawn out, creepy, and strange. I can see the good qualities within the movie and probably the overall message it was trying to represent, but overall it's not really a movie that I would recommend or go back to. Next, I ended up watching 8 Below, starring Paul Walker. We follow Jerry and his sled dogs in the Atlantic on an expedition. All is good until a heavy snowstorm forces him to leave the base without his dogs. When the conditions worsen and he is unable to get back, the dogs are left all alone. This is a really good and definitely underrated Paul Walker film. To top it off, it was supposed to have been inspired by true events. It is adventurous, fun, sad, and overall bittersweet. and would highly recommend if you haven't seen it already. Next, I ended up watching The Comebacks. This is a sports parody related film. We follow an out-of-luck football coach training a group of misfits to win the football tournament, whilst also trying to redeem himself in the eyes of his peers and family. This was actually quite a fun and well done sports parody. It was crazy, wild, and stupidly funny, and was still able to thoroughly enjoy it even though I did miss a lot of the references. And finally, the last movie I watched was Wanderlust, starring Paul Rudd and Jennifer Aniston. After losing their jobs and being kicked out of their New York apartment, a young married couple decides to experiment living in a rural community and adapting to an alternate lifestyle. This movie was actually quite interesting and fun. It was a unique concept that consisted of many outrageous and wildly funny moments. I ended up tracking down and watching the movie purely from this scene alone.
We should make love sometime. Anyway, think about being inside me.
I just had to see in what concept this could possibly come about. Now upon watching it, it all makes a lot of sense, and would recommend if you enjoy crazy adventures, strange people, and wild comedy. And last but certainly not least, I have TV shows I watched. For this month, I only completed one TV series in full. It was a rewatch anyway, and that was the Ted series. If you are a fan of the original films and haven't seen the series yet, you are 100% missing out. It is just as good and just as funny, and I would recommend getting to it as the trailer for season 2 just dropped and it's about to get a whole lot more wild. Let me know what are some of your top watches of this month. How many movies from this list have you also seen? Or are there any movies from this list that you want to see? And what are some upcoming movies you plan to watch for the month of February? That is all for this episode. As always, everything we discussed will be linked below along with my socials. Please be sure to like, subscribe and follow. Feel free to leave all your thoughts and comments below. Thanks for listening.